My name is Walt Mahla. I'm a ruling elder with Trinity Presbyterian Church in Providence, Rhode Island. That's in the Southern New England Presbytery, which is made up of churches in Massachusetts, Connecticut, and Rhode Island. I've been a ruling elder for about 20 years with Trinity, and then previously with Christ Presbyterian Church in Nashua, New Hampshire. I am the past clerk of the Southern New England Presbytery. I served as clerk there for 6 years, and since 2007 I have assisted the General Assembly with technology. I've been responsible or helped out and recently been responsible for the networking services that have been provided to the General Assembly. Well, I came to know the Lord as the result of some folks that I knew when I was growing up in Wilmington, Delaware. And they attended Faith Presbyterian Church in Wilmington, which was originally an RPCES church, but is now a PCA church. And I came to know the Lord through the ministry of those folks to me and the love that they showed to me. I actually became a Christian directly as a result of the testimony of my friend Scott, who went to the same college as I. And since he went to Reformed Presbyterian churches, I sort of gone to Reformed Presbyterian churches since I came to know the Lord. I've really come to appreciate the Reformed faith and the biblical basis of the church government that makes up the PCA. As I explained before, beginning in 2007, have helped the PCA at the General Assembly level, and because of that help, I volunteered to serve on the administrative committee, and I've been on that committee since 2009. In fact, I'll be going off in 2011. Never really did anything with the denomination until I got involved with these activities, so I pretty much would consider myself an outsider looking in, if you know what I mean. Also, I've always been, since 1984 in New England. New England is a small region compared to the geographic base of the PCA, so we're sort of on the fringes, and that's another sort of outsider perspective, if you know what I mean. Don't get me wrong, I feel very much a part of the PCA, but maybe not as involved with what goes on in the South, which is obviously where the church, the denomination is mainly based. So I didn't really know much about General Assembly. I didn't really know much about the administrative committee and what it did until I started helping out in the ways that I, back in 2007. And just have come to really appreciate the work of the administrative committee and what it does for the denomination and how it makes so much of the ministry possible. Without the administrative committee, it's sort of the glue in some senses that holds it all together and provides the infrastructure that allows the ministries of the PCA to actually happen. So that's why I really have come to appreciate what the administrative committee does. It's not a glamorous thing. People don't really have a good understanding of what the committee does, but if you look at the impact it has across the denomination, it just really is amazing to me. The staff that work in the office are very capable and people. They love the Lord and love the denomination, and it's really been a privilege to work with them over the last few years. Well, I said before, being in southern New England, we sort of feel a bit far away. I probably won't have the number exactly right, but the Southern New England Presbytery's budget is in the $40,000 to $50,000 range. It's a very small budget. As a result, the churches tend to be small. Can't contribute that much to the work of the presbytery, and given where we are, it's expensive for folks to go to General Assembly, right? So if you take into account the registration fees, that the $400 commissioner fee that you have to pay to be able to go and participate, and the cost of the trip itself, staying in hotels, the whole 10 yards, that it's difficult for churches and pastors to participate. So one thing this plan does is it makes it easier because the churches are small, so the amount of money that they actually will have to budget to participate in General Assembly will go down quite a bit. So that's one way that will allow us in Southern New England to become more involved with the General Assembly than we've been able to do in the past. You know, also as an individual that, you know, is an engineer by training and you know, sort of looking in from an outsider's perspective, you know, I've been able to observe some things that have concerned me about the way the AC is funded now. I may not have the exact percentage, but something like 45% of the churches in the PCA actually contribute to the work of the administrative committee. Obviously, that means that 55% of the churches do not. And I would hope that all of those 55% would derive benefits from being a part of the PCA and would derive benefits specifically from the work the administrative committee does. Like, for example, perhaps many of the pastors at those churches actually found their position, you know, by the assistance of the administrative committee, the state clerk's office down here in Atlanta. And, you know, that's just one small thing. You know, all the things the administrative committee does that tie all these ministries together and provide the infrastructure, I mean, we all benefit from it. And it doesn't make sense to me, if I benefit from something, not to contribute to it. And this plan makes it very possible, in my opinion, even for small churches, you know, because the fees are not that high, to participate in funding the work of the administrative committee. And I believe, you know, that's something that we all should do because we benefit from it. And that's a biblical principle, in my opinion. Another thing that I've observed, being on the administrative committee, is at the end of every year, the work of a significant number of the staff, not only here in the offices in Atlanta, but, you know, committee members and others throughout the denomination have to focus on raising money, you know, specifically for the administrative committee. You know, there's a hockey stick phenomenon that occurs with funding for the administrative committee. You know, a significant percentage of the money that this committee relies on to do its work comes in November and December of every year, and the staff is sweating. You know, are we going to have a deficit? You know, this is a nonprofit organization. It doesn't really have any way of raising money on its own. It benefits only from the money that comes in from the people that support it, right? You know, and they rely on a line of credit, and, you know, the line of credit is expensive, and you know, we really need a system of funding the work of the administrative committee which makes it possible for us all to be connected as part of the PCA. We need to make it more predictable, and this is something that, if implemented, will make it more predictable. So the staff members won't have to worry about, you know, spending so much of their time and effort at the end of every year raising money and spend otherwise, you know, or rather focus their time on their ministry work at the end of the year, which is one of the more important times for them needing to be focused on it. Also, the issue of the number of General Assembly commissioners. You know, the General Assembly is a huge operation. It's very, very expensive to pull off. You know, convention centers have to be paid, whether they're 5 commissioners or 5,000 commissioners, and the rates they get are the rates they get. And, you know, these folks sweat over the number of commissioners, right? If we don't get the right number, we're going to lose money. How are we going to, you know, and then they have to make up for it somewhere else, right? Because the bills have to be paid. So, you know, the fact that that whole funding system will change, and it will, you know, no longer will be so dependent upon the number of people that attend, because, you know, it just makes it a much more predictable system. And I think that's what we need. We need to become more connected in the PCA. This is something that will allow that to happen. It will allow smaller churches to participate. It will allow smaller churches to have a louder voice. And that's something that's very important to me, because I come from a bunch of small churches in southern New England.